I first noticed him because he didn't look at anyone. That sounds strange, I know. People notice confidence or beauty or noise, but he moved through the cafe like a quiet current, eyes fixed on the counter, shoulders slightly tense, as if he were bracing himself for impact that never came. It was raining outside, one of those late autumn rains that felt personal, cold needles threading through the city. The windows were fogged, the air inside thick with the smell of coffee and damp coats. He ordered a black Americano. No sugar, no hesitation. When the barista called his name, Sojun, he flinched, just a little. That was the first thing that stayed with me. The second was the way his fingers trembled when he took the cup. I don't know why I spoke to him. I'm not someone who does that. I've spent most of my life observing from safe distances, letting moments pass me by because wanting something felt more dangerous than losing it. But something about him felt familiar. "Careful," I said, nodding toward his cup. "It's hotter than it looks." He glanced at me, startled. Our eyes met. Dark, soft, guarded. "Thanks," he said, voice low, polite, controlled. He turned to leave, and I should have let him. "Sojun," I said instead, the name strange and intimate on my tongue. He paused. "Yes?" I gestured toward the empty chair at my table. "If you don't mind, it's raining pretty hard." For a moment, he looked like he might refuse. I could see the calculation in his eyes, the internal debate between courtesy and self-preservation. Then he nodded once. "Okay." He sat across from me, leaving just enough distance to remind us both this wasn't an invitation. Steam curled from his cup. A drop of water slid from his hair down his temple, catching the light before disappearing. "I'm Mino," I said. "Sojun." We sat in silence longer than most people would tolerate, but it wasn't awkward. It felt suspended, like we were waiting for something neither of us knew how to name. Outside, the rain hit harder. "You come here often?" I asked. He shook his head. "First time." "Figures." "Me too," I lied. He smiled at that, just a little, like he didn't fully trust it. Something shifted. We didn't exchange numbers that day. We talked about nothing important: work, the weather, the way the city felt heavier in winter. He worked in architecture. Long hours, quiet office. He liked structures that looked solid but hid complexity beneath. "I like things that hold," he said, "even when they're strained." I didn't ask what he meant. I already knew. When he left, he hesitated at the door, hand hovering over the handle like he wanted to say something else. He didn't. I watched him disappear into the rain and told myself that was that. It wasn't. The second time I saw him was 3 weeks later, in the same cafe, same rain-slicked evening. This time, he looked for me. His eyes scanned the room, landed on mine, and something unguarded crossed his face. Relief, maybe, or disappointment that he'd hoped too much. "You," he said, approaching. "Hi." "Hi." He sat without asking this time. We talked longer, deeper, about music, about loneliness, about the strange comfort of shared silence. He listened like it mattered, like I mattered. That scared me. When the cafe closed, neither of us moved. "Do you want to walk?" he asked. Outside, the rain had softened to a mist. Streetlights reflected gold on wet pavement. We walked side by side, close enough that our arms brushed now and then,
sparks of awareness traveling up my spine every time it happened. "You don't talk about yourself much," he said. "I don't like being known." He glanced at me. "Why?" I shrugged. "People leave when they know too much." He stopped walking. I turned. He looked at me like he was seeing something he hadn't expected to find. "I don't," he said. The words landed between us, heavy and fragile. "I mean," he added quickly, "I don't leave easily." Something in his voice cracked. Just a hairline fracture. I wanted to touch him then. Not in any specific way, just to reassure him that he was real, that this moment was happening. I didn't. We stood there until the cold seeped into our bones. When we finally parted, he said, "I hope I see you again." "Me too." This time, we exchanged numbers. What followed wasn't a rush. It was a drift. Messages that stretched late into the night. Long pauses where neither of us knew how to step closer without naming what we were circling. We never called it a date. We met for dinners that lasted hours, walks that ended nowhere, movies we didn't watch because we talked through them in whispers. Sometimes his knee would brush mine, and neither of us would move it away. Sometimes he'd fall asleep beside me on my couch, fully clothed, head tilted toward my shoulder like it belonged there. I learned the way his breath changed when he was nervous, the way he smiled when he was about to.
Mirrors, that he hated hospitals, that he flinched when people raised their voices. He learned that I drank my coffee cold, that I counted steps when I was anxious, that I'd never been in love without fear attached to it. Still, we didn't cross the line, not because we didn't want to, but because we were both terrified of what would happen if we did. The night everything nearly changed, it was snowing. Soft flakes, quiet and relentless, covering the city in white. We were in my apartment, lights low, music playing softly from my phone. Sojin stood by the window, watching the snow. "It's beautiful," he said. "It's cold," I replied. He turned. "So are you." I raised an eyebrow. "Excuse me?" "You keep people at a distance," he said gently, "even when you let them close." I swallowed. "And you don't?" He stepped closer, too close. "I'm trying not to," he said. The space between us thinned, charged. I could smell his soap, feel the warmth of his body. "If I step any closer," he said quietly, "you'll have to tell me to stop." My heart pounded. I didn't tell him to stop. He didn't touch me, not yet. But the way he looked at me felt like hands on my skin. "Minho," he whispered, my name heavy with things unsaid. I knew then that whatever this was, it wasn't safe anymore. It was real, and it was going to hurt, no matter how it ended. I didn't sleep that night. Sejun stayed, stretched out on my couch, one arm flung over his eyes like he was shielding himself from something invisible. I lay in my bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying the way he'd said my name, the way the air had thickened between us like it was waiting for permission. I kept thinking, if I had leaned in, he wouldn't have pulled away. That thought scared me more than rejection ever could. Morning came quietly. Pale light slipped through the curtains, turning the room soft and unreal. I heard movement in the living room, the rustle of fabric, the low hum of my kettle. By the time I stepped out, Sujin was already dressed, hair still damp from washing his face, mug warming his hands. "Morning," he said. "Morning." We stood there like strangers who shared too much. "I should go," he added, too quickly. I nodded, even though every part of me protested. "Yeah, of course." He hesitated at the door. Again. This was becoming a pattern. "About last night," he said. I waited. "I didn't mean to pressure you." "You didn't," I said. "I just didn't know what to do with it." His gaze softened. "Me neither." Then he left, and the apartment felt bigger than it ever had. We didn't see each other for a week. Not because we were avoiding each other, at least not consciously. Life slipped in between. Deadlines, meetings, long days that ended with exhaustion heavy enough to dull everything else. We texted, but carefully. Less late-night honesty, more neutral check-ins. "Did you eat?" "Busy day. Hope work wasn't too rough." I told myself this was healthier. I didn't believe it. The next time we met, it was accidental. I was leaving the bookstore near my office when I saw him across the street, standing under a street lamp, phone pressed to his ear, shoulders tense. He looked upset. I crossed without thinking. "Sojun?" He turned, surprise flashing across his face before something else replaced it. Relief, raw and unguarded. "Minho." He ended the call without explanation. "You okay?" I asked. He hesitated, then shook his head. "Not really." I didn't ask questions. I just nodded toward the cafe beside us. "Sit with me," I said. 5 minutes. He followed. Inside, the warmth wrapped around us. He stared into his cup like it held answers. "My parents want me to move," he said suddenly. "To Busan. There's a project." And I don't want to." The words came out sharp, like he was surprised by their force. "Why not?" He looked at me then. Really looked. "I finally feel like I'm standing still somewhere," he said, "and I'm afraid if I leave, I'll lose it." I knew he wasn't just talking about the city. "Then don't go," I said. "It's not that simple." It never is. Our eyes held. Something old and fragile pulsed between us. "Minho," he said quietly. "What are we doing?" There it was. I took a breath. "I don't know. But I know what it feels like when you're not around." His fingers tightened around the cup. "And?" he asked. "It feels like I'm missing a step." Silence. Then he laughed softly, a sound edged with something like disbelief. "I thought it was just me," he said. That night, we walked again. No rain this time, just cold air and distant city noise. Our shoulders brushed deliberately now, neither of us pretending it was accidental. "Can I ask you something?" Sojun said. "Anything." "Are you scared of me?" I considered the question. "No." "Then what are you scared of?" I stopped walking. "Wanting you more than I can handle," I said. He exhaled, breath fogging between us. "I'm scared you'll wake up one day and decide this was just comfort," he admitted. "Not choice." I stepped closer, close enough that our coats touched.
"Look at me," I said. He did. "This isn't comfort," I said. "It's tension, and it's terrifying." A smile flickered across his mouth. Small, vulnerable. "Good," he said, "because I don't think I could survive it if this was easy." The air between us tightened again. This time, when he leaned in, I didn't freeze. Our foreheads touched first, breath mingling. A pause so charged it felt louder than a kiss. "If you want me to stop," he whispered, "say it now." I didn't. Our lips met gently, hesitant, exploratory, like we were learning the shape of something sacred. It wasn't hungry. It was careful, like both of us were afraid of breaking the moment. When we pulled back, he rested his forehead against mine. "That was—" he started. "I know," I said. We didn't go further, and somehow that made it harder. After that, everything changed, and nothing did. We kissed, but slowly, always stopping just before things tipped into something more dangerous. We held hands in quiet places, leaned into each other during movies, slept side by side, warmth shared, but boundaries intact. People started noticing. "Are you two together?" a coworker asked once. Sojin smiled politely. "We're close."
But beneath the tenderness, fear coiled. Because closeness demands decisions, and decisions demand courage. The night he finally told me he was leaving, it felt like déjà vu. Same couch, same low light, same careful distance. "They want me in Busan by spring," he said. I accepted. My chest tightened. "Oh," I managed. "I didn't want to tell you like this," he added quickly. "You thought it would hurt less?" I finished. He nodded. Silence stretched. "And us?" I asked. He looked down. "I don't know if I'm brave enough to ask you to wait." I stood, crossed the room, stopped in front of him. "Sojun," I said softly, "do you want me?" His answer came without hesitation. "Yes." "Then don't decide for me." He looked up, eyes shining with something dangerously close to hope. "I'm not asking for promises," I said. "Just honesty." He stood too. We were face to face again, the space between us humming. "I want you," he said, "even if it scares me." That was enough. I kissed him again, deeper this time, unguarded, hands finding his waist like they'd been waiting their whole lives to belong there. He kissed me back with equal urgency, and for the first time, neither of us pulled away. After that night, time behaved differently. Days blurred, nights stretched. Every moment with Sojin felt weighted, like the universe was quietly keeping score. We didn't talk about Busan again, not right away. The truth sat between us, heavy but unspoken, like a storm cloud neither of us wanted to acknowledge. Instead, we lived in the almost. Almost moving in together. Almost saying the word love. Almost crossing the line we both pretended wasn't there. We cooked dinners that went cold because we talked too much. We shared showers without touching, backs turned, pretending the steam didn't carry want into every corner of the room. We slept tangled together, His head on my chest, my arm around his waist, hearts beating in unsteady sync. It was intimacy sharpened by denial. And denial has an expiration date. The night everything finally tipped, it wasn't dramatic. No rain, no music, no perfectly timed confession. Just exhaustion. Sojin came over late, shoulders slumped, eyes shadowed. He dropped his bag by the door and leaned his forehead against my shoulder without saying a word. I wrapped my arms around him instinctively. "Bad day?" I asked. He nodded. "They finalized the date." My grip tightened. "When?" "2 weeks." The words hit harder than I expected. 2 weeks wasn't time. It was a countdown. I pulled back enough to look at him. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" "Because every time I try," he said quietly, "I look at you and forget how to leave." Something inside me snapped, not loudly, but completely. "Come here," I said. He followed me to the couch. We sat close, knees touching, silence thick. "I don't want to be careful tonight," I admitted. "I'm tired of pretending this isn't real." Sojin's breath stuttered. "Minho, if we stop," I continued, "it should be because we choose to, not because we're scared." He searched my face, like he was trying to memorize it. "You're sure?" he asked. I nodded. That was all it took. The kiss wasn't gentle this time. It was urgent, all the restraint of weeks collapsing into a single moment. His hands fisted in my shirt like he was anchoring himself. Mine slid up his back, feeling the tension there, the way he trembled when I pulled him closer. Every touch felt amplified, electric, reverent. We broke apart only to breathe. "This doesn't fix anything," he whispered. "I know," I said, "but it's honest." That mattered more. We moved slowly after that. No rush, no hunger that overwhelmed intention. Just discovery. Heat layered with care, want softened by trust. When we finally lay together, breathless and spent, Sojin rested his forehead against my collarbone. "I don't regret this," he said. "Good," I replied, "because neither do I." But even as we held each other, the clock kept ticking. The days that followed were fragile. We laughed more, too much sometimes, like we were trying to outrun the sadness. We took photos we pretended were casual, but never posted. We memorized each other in quiet ways, the curve of his neck, the rhythm of my breathing when I slept. Love, it turns out, is clearest when time is limited. The night before he was supposed to leave, we didn't pack. We walked. The city was alive, lights, voices, motion, but we moved through it like ghosts. "Do you believe in timing?" Sojin asked suddenly. "I believe in choices," I said. He stopped walking. "So do I," he said. Then, softly, "That's why I haven't told them yet." My heart skipped. Told them what? That I'm not going. The world seemed to tilt. "You're... what?" "I'm staying," he said. "If you'll let me." I stared at him, stunned. "Sojin, you don't do that for someone unless—" "I love you," he said. Quiet, certain. "I've been fighting it since the cafe. I'm done fighting." The word landed between us, fragile and undeniable. I didn't hesitate. "I love you too."
He smiled then, not small, not guarded, full, free. And for the first time since I met him, he looked like someone who had chosen himself.